my show on YouTube has changed my life immensely over the last 10 years. It cost me my marriage, cost me most of my family, sent me spiraling into a really cringy midlife crisis. I had a couple videos that were seen over 1 million times, and pretty much every video I put out was seen at least a couple 100,000 times. Honestly, it was beyond my wildest dream. Suddenly, out of nowhere, I went from being a nobody in the backwoods of Mississippi to having celebrities message me and privately ask me to come hang out with them. I'm not going to name drop or anything because these people didn't want to be publicly associated with me. And I never did actually go hang out with any of them. But I had several very well-known people message me and tell me they were fans. And then I started getting messages from women. Like literally, some of the most beautiful women I'd ever laid eyes on began messaging me and flirting with me. Cute local soccer moms were messaging me, asking me to have affairs with them. I've been faithful to my wife for 16 years. I think up to that point, I had only been with like 4 women in my life. I never really felt handsome or desirable. And then suddenly, when I'm pushing 40, all these young women start messaging me and showing interest. And it basically triggered a full-on midlife crisis.
My girlfriend and I have a 14-year age gap.
This is correct. We met when I was 24 and you were 38.
Something like that. And I'm now 40. And, my approach to making videos on the internet has been relentlessly keeping it real. And there's an argument that should stop.
Yeah.
It's a really solid argument. One of my reasons for doing that is I have a 5-year-old daughter with my former marriage. And when I came on YouTube, I kind of had 2 big objectives. One was to make friends and colleagues. That's one objective. Some people are going to be your friends. Some people are just going to be your colleagues. And the other was to leave a kind of time capsule here on YouTube so that my daughter in the future could see what kind of person I really am or really was. And, in talking about the age gap, in talking about our relationship, period, it's obvious that some of our audience, I don't even know if they are my audience, but some people came over the channel. They are really uncomfortable with us admitting and talking about in an honest and down-to-earth way the intellectual inequality between us.
Yeah.
So I got one email this morning from a woman, or someone who identifies as a woman, ostensibly from a woman, horrified that I would say or even imply that there's any inequality between us. So the first thing I want to say in this video is, if you have 2 people of equal intelligence and a 14-year age gap, the older person is going to be vastly, vastly superior to the younger person.
Yeah.
For us to be at an equal level of knowledge and ability, acumen, as I like to say, mentally, with this age gap, I would have to be vastly mentally inferior to you. You know what I mean? If I was just catching up to you, we were at the same level.
Yeah, definitely.
And who wants that? I mean, regardless of which way the genders go, like if you're a man dating an older woman, do you want someone who is not wiser than you? If I were dating a woman 14 years older than me, would I want someone who is not more accomplished, more intelligent, more knowledgeable than me?
Yeah, I don't see it as a negative thing at all.
Yeah.
I see it only as a positive thing that you can be in this role of teaching me things. I mean, maybe people see it as unhealthy or something, but I really appreciate it. I think I've grown so much as a person since I started seeing you, and since I got together with you. I feel like I've made so much progress as a person that I wouldn't have made with somebody my own age, or somebody who was, my first relationship was with someone who was 4 years older than me. So you would think that age gap would allow me to have become more emotionally and mentally mature.
But he was very intellectually lazy. I mean, he really didn't help you.
Right. So you are, you are the complete opposite in terms of intellectual motivation. You're really intellectually motivated. And you inspire me to be intellectually motivated and to try to make myself a better person.
Right. Let me just ask, is it oppressive to be in a relationship of unequals? Like, is inequality ineluctably oppressive? Because, again, it's not that hard to do the thought experiment. Okay, so I study Chinese. I'm trying to learn Chinese or improve my Chinese, put it that way. If I were dating a woman 14 years older than me, who was a scholar of Chinese, way more advanced than I am, is that oppressive? Is that, like, I think you have to be in a place of profound insecurity yourself to start off from this assumption, like, no, we have to be equals. Or else somehow I'm harming you just by interacting with you, just by loving you, or just by being in a relationship,
Yeah.
Right? Why not start off from? Why not proceed from facing up to in an honest and open way? Yeah, we all cope with dynamic inequalities.
Well, and I knew before I met you what kind of person you were. I know you didn't know as well as I did. You didn't know me as well as I knew you just from your YouTube videos, but. I knew what kind of person you were. I knew the intellectual caliber, and I knew that you would challenge me.
Right.
But I still felt really confident that we would be a good match, and I really was the one that.
Yes, that's right. She was the one confident in the viability of the relationship.
Yeah, I really was. I remember you saying, like, you might come over here to China and decide that we're not right for each other, like this might flop, this might not work out.
I talked through all the exit strategies she might need, like look, if you want to stay in a hotel after you get here, if you want to call it off, you know.
I mean, I remember you saying you might see that I'm an old man and you might not be attracted to me like this. You were very honest and frank about that.
I wrote to you and said, I have nose hairs. I have ear hairs. Like, you can't see it on camera, but, like, there were signs of aging you're going to see close up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but, I mean, this is not about intellectual...
Yeah.
I am very attracted to you, and I was from the very first time that I saw a video of you. And especially, like, I was so confident that I would be attracted to you actually in person. And, the first time I met you at the baggage carousel,
met in the airport,
we met at the airport. Like, we had this super passionate, intense connection from the very start. And
you were swept off your feet, literally.
Yeah, literally. And I remember saying, like, I'm going to marry you, like, the first time that we met.
Literally the first words she said to me. Yeah. Before that, you just made a little kind of squealing noise. You were so delighted to be in my arms.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, I knew what kind of person I was getting involved with, but you didn't so much. But you gave me a chance, and you've seen me go from somebody that has caused you... I really, like, you don't know both sides, but if you knew my side, you would really not be on my side. I'm just saying, like, Isla has gone through a lot with me.
There's been a lot of sorrow and a lot of agony caused to me by Melissa.
I think, like, for a while I was an insecurity of mine was that I was younger. Because I was like, you would probably be better matched with somebody who has had more experience or somebody who has more education, like somebody with an MA or PhD.
So my ex-wife had a PhD, for example. Obviously her insecurity wasn't that I would get back together with my ex-wife, but somebody like that, somebody at the same age with a high level of formal education.
Right. And I think there's also an argument that if you had gotten with somebody who was closer to your age, there wouldn't be so much having to deal with someone who's, like, emotionally and mentally just more mature than you.
Right.
But, like, you've done so well, like, you've been so kind and loving to me despite all that. You may not see this on camera. No, I mean, I think it's true. I just think it's not something the audience is going to see or understand. Yeah. But, like, to give, I think, a harmless example, when we first got together within the first couple of months, you once really threw a tantrum over the dryer, the clothes washing machine, the clothes dryer, that the dryer had damaged one of your t-shirts. Yeah, it was a shirt that my oldest brother had gotten me that, like, had a nice design on it. doesn't even matter, you know.
Right.
It's a shirt. Right. It's a t-shirt.
But you'd had the same t-shirt for 7 years or something.
It was an old t-shirt. Yeah.
For many years, she'd had this t-shirt been in and out of the washer and the dryer.
Oh, this washer ruined my shirt.
The stitching was starting to come apart.
Yeah, which was easy. And, it was easy to fix. I could have just been I'll just sew this. It's no big deal.
But she really had a childish kind of tantrum and meltdown.
Yeah,
you know.
That's true.
And my job was to stand there with kind of detachment and, compassion and say, well, Melissa, if you wash a t-shirt again and again for 7 years, this is the kind of thing that happens in life, when you have more experience with,
the Chinese washing machine.
Yeah. No, but she was furious. She was livid. She was freaking out over this t-shirt. And, I have a lot of experience managing women going crazy. That's what you do.
I know.
I want to say too that when you mentioned being attracted to me, I don't think it has to do with. I mean, there's a perception or an assumption that some women specifically pursue or fantasize about older men. I mean, I think it really is about my being your type. Mm-hmm. And I've said this in a million YouTube videos. I think 2% of women are attracted to me. And you happen to be in that 2%. I don't think I'm attracted to all women or even a majority of women or even it's a very small minority of women. Yeah. But I mean, if you had met me, if somehow in another universe or through time travel, she met me when I was 10 years younger than I am now, you still would have been attracted to me. It's not because I'm an older man and vice versa. Yeah. I mean, I think it's not that I'm a match with you because you were younger than me. Right? I'm just saying I think the age is in that sense incidental to the factors that'll make you attracted to one another and make you compatible.
But there have been times when I remember you saying, if we had been together when I was your age, if we had been the same age, you would have been less equipped to handle my shit. You would have just left. Even that, I'm not gonna deal with this girl.
Well, no, but even that example with the t-shirt where she was freaking out. No, but even that example with the t-shirt, there would have been situations if you had known me when I was 23, where you were screaming at me, and where I would have screamed back at you. Yeah. Where you got angry at me and I would have gotten angry back. And with that example, the t-shirt, she was furious. It wasn't my fault. But I remained calm and cool and detached and laughed about, tried to kind of philosophically coach you about, guess what? All is impermanent, T-shirts are not made of solid steel. But that's a big difference, sure. Is that I wasn't escalating the situation, I was de-escalating it. And that's how it's been in all the conflicts in the relationship.
I know, exactly. I'm always the one escalating it, and I don't know if it was just how I operated with my other relationships, not even sexual relationships, but with my with my prior relationship. I think it was we were both passionate people, and if I got upset, he would get upset too, and we would have a fight, and that's what I took as normal. Or with my brothers when I was a kid, when I was mad, they would be mad too, and we'd literally fight each other. This was the kind of interaction that I had with people when I had fought with them. We both would escalate the situation, and then it would come to the head
until everyone's screaming, and then it's over. What?
Yeah, right. And then you make up or whatever, that. But no, you have a really good approach to dealing with conflict, and there have been times where I'm no, I want you to actually be mad at me, like you say, if you were younger, you would scream at me or whatever, but because sometimes I'm just oh, you're so cool and collected, and I'm not,
Well, you sometimes have envy for being 40 years old that way. I think that you envy the qualities that come with age and experience. And again, I've been married and I've been divorced. I just have a lot more relationship management experience. But apart from the other qualities of age and intelligence and what have you. I wanted to flip around the comment about equality and inequality. I know two examples that are both here on YouTube. Onision, right? So we know about this. This was a couple of years ago. He started a relationship with an 18-year-old girl. And he was over 30 at the time, right? How stupid, how mentally disabled would you have to be to have that kind of age gap. Let's say it's a 14-year age gap, whatever it really is. And for the man to really be at the same level as and relate to an 18-year-old girl. Like, you know, the girl would have to be like a super genius, a super intellectual 18-year-old, and the man would have to be really intellectually stunted for them to relate to each other as equals with this kind of age gap. So, you know, now the only person I know who said to me openly that was what he was looking for, I know one other YouTuber kind of hinted at it implicitly, was actually Vegan Cheetah, Charles Marlowe. He said, so Cheetah, his YouTube channel today is Little Cheetah. He spent so many years as a drug addict and in and out of prison that I can remember him saying to me, and he used to say this publicly on YouTube, it may still be up. He said, you know, he's so immature and he's so out of touch. He's so far behind people his age that he really felt he needed to date much younger women. So he was on the same level with them, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, he was being honest. That I remember he said to me, the only time he ever read a book was when he was in prison. When he was in prison, he would read books. But he was aware of his level of ignorance and poor education and poor intellectual development and poor self-discipline because he'd been a drug addict.
Yeah.
And there's one other YouTuber I remember talking about that, where he said he felt so far behind in his 7 years of drug addiction that, you know, his mental maturity was way behind his age. So I mean, there are factors like that where the age gap is one party or the other compensating for something they don't have, for a gap in their lives, right? But for me personally, I feel like it's the opposite. I don't need the woman to provide those things. Like, I don't need a woman to bring into this relationship the things I can do for myself. To give an example, I don't need a woman to be my Chinese teacher. That would be the easiest thing. Again,
Please
studying
continue.
Chinese. Yeah. The kettle is on. You know, I don't need a woman to be my Chinese teacher. I don't need a woman to be my history or politics teacher or anything like that. And I can appreciate, I can imagine a guy who did need that or did want that. But for me at this stage of my life, I'm really self-sufficient that way. I can do my own research. I can provide my own intellectual stimulus and direction and what have you. I can teach myself languages. I don't need a language teacher.
Yeah.
So I'm not looking for you to provide any of that in the relationship, which is true.
Yeah.
An older woman could provide.
And I like what you always say, that, you know, all relationships are unequal. I mean, unless...
Yes. That's right.
Yeah, it really is the case that you are the one who's
Yep.
helping me with Chinese. You've taught me so much, and I mean, I don't know why people see that as a negative thing. Like, I've learned so
Right.
much more about history and politics because of what you know.
Right.
And that's what I loved about when I was first seeing your channel. I mean,
Right.
yeah, of course, I thought you were attractive, but, like, you know, I was in a relationship at the time when I first saw your channel, so I kept that under wraps. Like, and you were so much, it's true, I did think because you were older and because you had a YouTube channel that there was no way, you know, like...
that I was unattainable.
I could, like, fantasize about you or whatever, but, like, I wasn't gonna actually pursue a relationship with you. But, so, yeah, I mean...
Two airplane tickets later.
Yeah, right.
And that's all it took.
You know, I loved your channel. Like, I watched every video with rapt attention. Like, that, like, you know, I really wanted to learn from you, and I wanted to become a better person from what, I mean, really, I mean, you encourage people who listen to your channel to be better people, to make the world a better place. And to me, I really like that message, and I really appreciate being with somebody that can challenge me that way.
Well, thank you for saying that, Level. I mean, thank you for saying me. I don't know. I mean, I think probably the audience is just going to be more dug in and more judgmental and more opposed to this relationship. I mean, you know, as I said, I deleted a lot of really vicious comments yesterday that were basically taking that approach. But I mean, why is it such a bad thing for someone to want to be a better person? One person, I think you saw this comment, said their relationship is more like a teacher and student. Is that such a terrible thing? I mean,
somebody said it's kind of kinky.
Yeah, right. They saw it positive.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, but
of course, there's like a
what if it
I
wasn't?
Like being with an older man,
right.
sexually too, like really
when,
great.
When Anissian was in a romance with that 18-year-old, so Anissian was in a romance with an 18-year-old makeup artist, right?
Yeah.
and they played video games together as equals. They were like equally childish. So I know you perceive this, some people in the audience, like it's a really bad thing that we do relate to some extent as teacher and pupil, right? But what if we didn't? Like, what would that say about me? What if I had nothing to teach you with a 14-year age gap? What if I was like Anissian? I was someone so immature and so uncultivated with so little to offer that all we can do is sit on the carpet and play video games as if we're a couple of teenagers.
Yeah,
okay?
right.
And having knocked over the mic, I'm going to wrap it up on that note.